If I ever make my own wine, I'm calling it Misinformation. But until I do, you can support my work by going to AllisonWinePromo.com. That's Allison with 1L winepromo.com and get 3 amazing bottles of Malbec from high altitude regions in Argentina. 2 of these are extreme altitude. They come from almost 9,000 feet. One uses natural fermentation. Another is from the oldest vineyard in Argentina. Some people ask me what about extreme altitude even matters, and it's because the high level where the grapes are growing means that the skins on the grapes work a lot harder to protect the grape under the sun, which means that there are more antioxidants and also that grape has a more robust flavor to it, and that means the wine has a very unique flavor to it. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com, get 50% off my favorite wines and 50% off shipping, and toast a free speech while you're at it. However, if you prefer coffee, which is also high altitude, you can go to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. These are USDA certified organic roasts. There's light roast, there's dark roast, there's a limited black edition right now, which is processed with honey, which means it has a smoother, a little bit of a sweeter finish to it, not bitter like some coffees. So check out the black edition, or you can try the Katura tea, which is also quite good. It's tea made from coffee fruit, which I really like. I cold brew mine for 24 hours. Tastes a lot like black tea. Add a little bit of honey, some monk fruit sweetener. Delicious. So check out my sponsors, Toast to Free Speech, whatever you're drinking, wherever you're drinking. Let's continue on with the video. Okay, we have Dr. Mollie James back to talk about how the FSMB, which stands for the Federation of State Medical Boards, has approved a medical misinformation and disinformation policy. This comes from MedPage Today, which definitely runs interference for, I would say, establishment medical narratives. So I had a hard time, Mollie, figuring out exactly what they were talking about, because on one hand, they're saying this is to help inform consent for patients because there's just so much misinformation and disinformation out there. And this, of course, is following the Disinformation Governance Board announcement with the Biden administration. But it's unclear if that would say include something that is very protected right now by the popular sort of establishment medical protocol, like the vaccine. So is this going to then force doctors to be more honest about risks, costs, all that stuff with the vaccination? Or is it just with things like you've been censored over, say, the evil I word, which I'm nervous to say in case I want to put this on YouTube. So I don't know. I'm just curious what you think about this.
This is devastating. This is a policy. This is a censorship policy, and there's no free society that goes with their science community stifled. So what this does is it stifles debate. And anybody who's been following medicine at all the last 2 years knows that the difference between misinformation and truth is about 6 months. We were told that the vaccines were safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. And so if you didn't follow that official narrative, it was misinformation. I don't know who nominated the CDC to be the arbiter of truth in healthcare, but I think a lot of us could argue that they're not a reliable source, at least at this time.
According to this article, they're saying that this would be a board that provides recommendations for state medical boards when drafting their own policies and for licensees regarding best practices. So it doesn't seem like they have necessarily some kind of sort of, I guess, governing authority themselves, but maybe they have a lot of influence. I'm curious, do you think that this is going to be a big deal as far as the influence is concerned, if they aren't necessarily a body that is going to be able to rip a license away? Or is it much ado about nothing? I mean, obviously you seem concerned about it, but I'm not sure if there's much bite here, or if it's all bark.
So people need to understand that medicine is regulated by states, right? So every state has a licensing board, and this is the federal guidance. The federation is for national level guidance, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, basically the teeth is determined by the states. So I know there are some states who have said, we're not going to look into these misinformation claims, because a lot of this comes from social media. The Twitterati are activated against a physician. So you cross the path of a physician who disagrees with you, and they activate people and threaten that you're reported to the medical board. There are some states who have considered that to be noise, and they're not going to take complaints unless they're from patients. Other states have acted upon that. So I think that's important for people to realize. And again, we want free and open debate. So there's more than one truth in medicine, and there are different things that we should recommend for different patients. So this basically stifles that free and open discussion between a doctor and a patient.
This is a quote. We acknowledge early on that medical misinformation isn't new, but it's important to keep in mind that when there is misinformed decision making, it can cause needless harm, including deaths.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that a lot of people on a variety of different sides over the debate regarding COVID and vaccines and early treatments and just all the stuff that's been the most controversial could probably agree, yeah, that actually misinformed decision making is bad. But I think the difference here is that in what a lot of I think the pro censorship people have as a blind spot is the amount of or the I guess the lack of information and nuance and given to these censored topics that they think they're defining what I guess is important information to give the public and then also defining what is misinformation, not a valid alternative perspective. And so even though I think a lot of us would agree that like, yeah, people over the last couple of years made misinformed decisions about care and prevention or, treatment, whatever you want to call it. But did they all do it in one direction? The way that these people are thinking. And I think there are, doctors like yourself would say no, that in fact, a lot of these sort of establishment pro censorship or medical misinformation policy type people were misleading their patients, if not as much, just more in certain cases.
Yeah. So if you take COVID out of it, right, because that's pretty inflammatory and people have a feeling about that. Look at cancer. So I used to do breast surgery. And we would have patients come in that literally would put a black stab on their breast and they would come in with a fungating breast mass because some doctor told them to do that, or they would be taken for tens of thousands of dollars, right? So none of us want our patients to be taken advantage of or led down a wrong road. But when you look, there are doctors out there that are having really good results treating cancers, different varieties of cancers in different ways. They stay off the radar. They keep that very close to the vest because if traditional corporate medicine oncologist finds out about that, they're reported to the board for misinformation and denying their patient the standard of care. So if you take it out of the realm of COVID, this has been happening for a long time. And a lot of those doctors have been vilified.
If you watch this video on YouTube, it has been clipped and censored to fly under the community guideline radar, so you need to go to one of my other platforms to see it in its entirety, and the best place to go is AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where you can become part of my editorial board. We have editorial board meetings once a week. You can give me feedback from the week before, pitch story ideas or interview ideas for the week ahead. Tell me how your life's going, whatever you want. We do it out with my horses. They're awesome. You also get exclusive content there. You can post questions ahead of time for interviews. So go to AllisonMorrow.locals.com. But whatever you do, don't stay here on YouTube. The full truth is somewhere else.